Chris, I mentioned this to you this morning, but you've gone BYU viral again by posting a tweet saying that as you talk to BYU opponents, a lot of the players mentioned Provo as a weirdly friendly place to go and that they look forward to going there. How long did it take you to gather that information before you put it out on social media?
Yeah, so we're just asking a lot of players a bunch of different things kind of about the conference, and that was one of the questions. And we got quite a few people who said BYU, and that fans were saying good luck to them. Players said they were weirdly nice. They said fans stuck around and cleaned up the garbage after the game, and they had not experienced that at all. One player, I don't remember who it was exactly yet, said it was the worst place for whatever reason, but it was everyone else was the complete opposite end of it. So apparently players enjoyed going to BYU.
So everybody but one said it was mostly a weirdly nice place. BYU and Utah were also recently featured in The Athletic, talking about the greatest rivalries, but the Utes and Cougars are not featured in the top 25 of said list. You didn't write that, but one of your cohorts. So how do you view that BYU-Utah rivalry dynamic in the grand scheme of the greatest rivalries in college sports?
It's certainly up there. It depends. Everybody kind of has their own criteria on how to evaluate it. It's a game that hasn't had a lot of top 25 matchups, for example, but there is a lot of, obviously, hatred and stuff like that. So how do you kind of balance those two? And everybody kind of does it a little bit differently. I know Scott put a ton of work into. He had so many spreadsheets and months of data he'd been compiling on it. I know Utah and BYU fans were not happy about it, and that's fine. That's the point of the list. We don't make the list for everybody to say it's a great list. I rank every college football team, and nobody ever says that. So everybody just kind of has their own thing, but it's certainly up there. I think we saw what happened at the end of last year's game was another example of that. I'm glad it's back. I'm glad they're in the same conference here, and this game is happening, and that the Big 12 protects it as one of the rivalries, so it's certainly right up there.
You've never had an angry fan tweet at you, right?
Never. I rank all, it'll be 136 teams now every Sunday during the season, and just comes with the territory, and you expect that. And especially on social media, I know BYU fans are vocal.
Speaking of rankings, there's no preseason poll for the Big 12. But again, you rank all 136 teams, not just in the Big 12, but across all of Division I football. Where does BYU currently sit in the Chris Vannini rankings, both in the Big 12 and nationally, with the quarterback room in question?
I haven't done it yet because they didn't ask us this year, so I hadn't actually gone through the whole thought process yet. But I'll put the whole rankings together probably early August. But a lot of it just kind of weighs on Jake Retzlaff's status. It seems like he's probably not going to be back. If he was, I had BYU right up there, Arizona State right up there, Kansas State. There was like 3 or 4 teams. You can tell by the betting odds. Like, there's no clear favorite for this conference. And it's not that there isn't somebody who could win. There's a lot of really good teams that bring a lot back. And BYU was one of them. The quarterback's going to be potentially a major question mark now. And it may just take a couple of games of figuring out who that is and how that's going. And that's one of the reasons why the Big 12 didn't want to do the poll. Arizona State was picked last by us last year, and that probably hurt their perception going in. And so I understand the conference doing that, especially in this conference, because everybody's so close. There's not that much of a difference between 1 and 10, and so it's going to be hard to pick.
Along with the parity of the Big 12, what makes covering this conference the most intriguing for you as a college football insider and reporter?
Well, it's every game, anything can happen. There was a 4-way tie atop the conference last year. We went into, I'm at Texas A&M last year, and after the game, we have to keep watching some of the late Big 12 games because it's going to impact the tiebreaker of who's going to get to play in the championship game, because the conferences are so big and we don't have divisions anymore that we have weird tiebreakers determining things. So many different factors go into it. But, I don't even know who's going to be picked last this year. Really Houston, but even Houston had some big wins last year. So we saw what Kansas did the second half of the season after they had a slow start. So there really is no off weeks, and I know it's a cliche, but top to bottom, especially you look at the bottom, I think this is the strongest conference in the country. Now, that's not necessarily good for the Big 12 because you need a couple of teams to emerge and get in that playoff contention, but depth-wise, it's incredible.
All right, we'll finish with this. Speaking of the college football playoff, if you're choosing your desired format and making any tweaks, I've heard all conferences need to play the same number of games, whether it's 8 or 9, and some other factors that go into it, 16 teams, 5 AQs plus 11. What would Chris Vannini do with the college football playoff format?
I'd leave it the way it is. I thought 12 was great. I thought the first-round byes were great. I thought everything worked out well, and we got that cutoff point where, like, did 3-loss Alabama have to be in the playoff? Not really. I think it was pretty clear there's, maybe 6, 7, 8 teams in a given year that can win the national championship. You threw a couple more spots on top of that. If we go to 16 or 14, you're going to have even more teams with a debate to get in. I don't like the auto bid stuff. I think it's very confusing for everybody, but we're probably going to we might have 4 different playoff formats in 4 years, going from 23 to 26. I don't think that's good for the sport either to keep changing. I thought 12 was great. It made the regular season matter more. It made your conference championship matter. Further expansion is just going to kind of water that down, but ultimately every conference has to do what's best for them, and the ones that are in charge are trying to do that.
Plenty to write about, no doubt about it, and keeping you busy. Do you like the tweak to do the playoff with the 12 teams in just a general straight order with the conference champions not getting the first 4 seeds?
I get why they did it. I didn't like it because I'd like the conference championship to mean something. And I think moving forward now, conference championship is not going to mean nearly as much. Yeah. And maybe we're already there. Like Georgia, Texas, did they need to play that game? And Carson Beck gets hurt. It's like maybe we're already at that point, but I grew up where conference championship was the number one goal. And especially taking away the advantage of those byes, it's not going to happen anymore. Now I get it. All the teams that got the byes lost, so maybe it wasn't an advantage in the end. But it's just more of a shift of the most important thing in the sport is the playoff, and I don't think that's good.
We love your insight and your perspective, and some unique perspectives at that. Look forward to your 1 through 136 rankings coming out in early August. And again, remind BYU fans how they can find your great work.
Yeah, on The Athletic, I know people didn't like the ranking of the rivalry, but I did put the Holy War rivalry as the number 4 best rivalry nickname. I know the schools don't love using that name. It's unofficial or whatever, but I very much enjoy it.
Chris, we appreciate the time. A man of the people.
Good to be here.